Hi, everybody. I'm a futurist, and I'm here to talk with you about that tonight. And if I do my job right, maybe why you might want to be a futurist too. So futurists say that the future we want doesn't arrive fully formed. We have to shape it. And listen, in case you're worried, I'm not here to take away your cynicism with a bunch of fluff. I'm actually a big fan of snarkiness. I think it really helps, but I am here to put a dent in it. Because at the end of the day, our snarkiness won't save us. We're going to need something bigger of ourselves. I'm respectful of how challenging and complicated the world is right now, especially now, deeply so. But that said, guess what? The things you do, the way you think about the future, it matters. It's very important, and not just your future, lots of other people's futures as well. The way you think about the future matters. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you a little bit about how I got here. About 20 years ago, I had the privilege of leading, as Kurt said, a national initiative of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. It was a program to reform the juvenile justice system by making sure that kids had access to treatment they badly needed instead of jail time. We had a futurist come to work with us early on in that project. And like you, we wondered a little bit about what the heck they would do with us. What do we do with a futurist? Instead of doing a traditional strategic plan, they did something called a Foresight exercise. And here's how it worked. Instead of just imagining one scenario where you kind of think about, we want to go over there and we'll map out the steps of how to get there, we did something really different. We got really, really smart people together in a room, and then we imagined 6 different ways the future might play out related to our focus issue. And then we imagined we had a crystal ball, and that each one of those 6 scenarios was actually going to happen. We imagined the steps we'd take, the risks, the opportunities, and we made an actual plan based on all 6 of those scenarios, as if it was really going to happen. So, for example, one scenario might have been that there was a very progressive president who invested heavily in treatment and prevention instead of punishment. How would we fully take advantage of that? And in another scenario, we might have imagined that we ended up with a deeply conservative president who accelerated, privatized, and multiplied punishment-based approaches. How would we defend our work in that scenario? So you can see how different these plans might be. But then we did something amazing. We collapsed all those different plans into one larger plan, a less unidimensional and more multidimensional plan. And in a funny way, that plan was more accurate because it includes so many variations. In reality, while not one single one of those scenarios came true, some part of each of those scenarios did in fact happen. And the plan itself helped us be so much more agile, so much less reactive. That is a big part of the reason why 20 years later, our little 5-year demonstration project is actually still going on. While strategic planning is a necessary evil, and we'll probably always have it, foresight and futures planning can hold so much more complexity. It's actually a little more accurate because it fits to the way the world actually works. I've come to think of strategic planning kind of like driving, and foresight futures work more like flying. So what is it? Futures work is intentional, focused work to really stretch perception and deepen our capacity to anticipate in new ways and act more imaginatively as a result of that. To build collective imagination, intelligence, and agility, and not get lost in utopian or dystopian possibilities, though those are really fun and they usually do get all the attention, but a healthy curiosity about what actually might happen next. Promote a sense of agency that we can actually do something positive about the future. A couple more ideas about what it is. It has more than a 50-year history. It's practiced around the world in both the public and the private sectors. Some countries, like Finland, a place I was lucky enough to go to recently, have actually had futures work happening at the highest level of government for many, many years. So let's make it real. What does the future look like? Yeah, that's real. That's the future. The future is big, complicated, weird, scary, ethically complex, and awesome. Are you ready to participate? And by the way, those folks did that to study brain diseases impossible to study before in previous kind of research. They weren't actual brains, they were called organoids, and they were sort of biomass with brain characteristics, but still ethically tricky, right? A couple of other important ideas about futures work. It's really easy to think of futures work as being the future of one thing, tech, climate, energy, etc. But it's really bigger than that, because in many ways, the future of any one thing is kind of connected to the future of everything. Futures work is really about the interconnectedness of how things unfold across categories. Many futurists specialize in one area or another. I'm into the future of higher education and the future of social work, well-being, and human flourishing. But in a typical futures meetings, like the ones I go to at the Institute for the Future, where I'm affiliated, I meet people who are doing all kinds of interesting work, studying the future of food, the future of work, the future of climate, leadership, government, media, and on and on and on. What futures work isn't is it's not about predicting. Futurists don't do that. And it's also not about ignoring the past, because patterns are a big deal in futures work, and history is full of patterns. So before I finish, I want to do three last things. I want to talk about things we do as futurists, why that's important, and one thing you can do to start your futures journey if I've convinced you. So what we do as futurists, as I've said before, is we intentionally expand your ability to imagine more than just one future, and not just the great or horrible futures. To imagine ethical issues, the choices, the sequences of events that lead to the futures we want, as well as the ones we don't want. The impact of events and trends, to look for patterns in how things are happening and unseen connections. And we do that with lots of other people around the world, democratizing and focusing on equity in the co-creation of the future. There's a lot of passion for learning and a lot of deep curiosity in futures work. There's also a lot of resisting of dominant or official futures. The futurists I most admire are the ones who invite disruption from those that try to drive the future in undemocratic ways. I sometimes think of this as applied science fiction, and that is why it is so much fun, so interesting. So as I've said, imagination is a big deal for futures work, and getting that wider sense of possibilities is what we're up to. Creativity is how we get there. Games and activities that really stretch our perception and thinking are really big, and one of those is called artifacts of the future. So let's take virtual reality as a case in point. So growth in this market internationally is kind of exploding. It's expected to grow by $209 billion by the year 2022. Demand expected to change by 16 times its current level in that same time span. And VR-related jobs grew 93% between 2015 and 2020. This little chart shows existing and anticipated growth between 2014 and 2025 in both the hardware and the software sectors. Huge. Here are some sectors that are theoretically going to experience profound disruption as a result of this growth in VR. And just think about them as I'm talking and imagine how VR might play out. Retail, military and defense, events and conferences, marketing and advertising, law enforcement, recruiting, agriculture, sports, education, energy, manufacturing, healthcare, journalism, construction, real estate, automotive, space exploration, engineering, it just goes on and on. By any measure, VR is a big deal, and it's likely to become a much, much bigger part of our lives in the coming years. So a futurist named Stuart Candy took this idea and these trends and wanted to develop an artifact of the future that would make us pause, make us think about this. Imagine a future that hasn't happened yet, but a future that might make us take a minute and think, be concerned, imagine ethical and practical impacts. And he came up with something he called the nurture pod. It looks like this. And so these are the kinds of questions a futurist might ask. What led up to this being a practice? Who decided this was a good idea? Who is at risk, and what kind of risk from this future? Who benefits from this practice? What ethics challenges emerge about use of the nurture pod? Is this a future you want to live in? Are you a little bit uncomfortable? That's the idea. I haven't been able to get this image out of my head since I saw it about a year ago, and I've tried. But that's why artifacts of the future can be so powerful. They kind of wake us up and realize we need to shape the future we want, not just wait around for it to hit. Here's another artifact from the future I found. How about this one? Would you like to live in this future? Just imagine it for a minute. So why is all this important? Because the speed of change is accelerating. There's urgency in democratizing the process of responding to that change. It shouldn't just be a few people who get to decide. We don't want to be victims of the future. We want to co-create it. What we do matters. And honestly, the future needs our love. Love for the planet, for people, creatures, cultures, art, equity, religions, families, natural and human created spaces that we've made together and that we're responsible for. The futures we want depend on us to show up with the best of what we've got, individually and collectively, to create, to participate, to vote, to contribute, prepare. So what is one thing you can do on your futures journey starting tonight? Try to start shifting the singular term future in your mind to futures, the plural. The future is plural. There's always more than one option. We should take full creative advantage of that. The future we want doesn't arrive fully formed. We have to shape it. To do that, we have to be brave. The future we want is depending on us. I'll see you there. Thank you.